public speaking. All right, so first I want to tell you a little bit more about what we did in Jacksonville and what our purpose was in going there. So it's called JAX STP. STP means Summer Training Program. We were there to learn how to bring people to Christ, and not only bring them to Christ, but to then help them grow up and learn how to go to the Bible and go to Jesus to grow for themselves. So we kind of, in Navigators, we like to use the illustration. Like when you first have a baby, you don't just go, oh, here's your room, here's the fridge, feed yourself, make yourself at home. You have to take the young and you have to nurture them and help them grow. And as you feed them and teach them, you also teach them to do that themselves, so eventually they can feed themselves and live on their own. So that's kind of the illustration we like to use, because we don't want to just bring people to Christ and be like, okay, here's a church to go to, knock yourself out. We want to help them understand the gospel and how to go to the feet of Jesus to grow. So that was our purpose in going there. We wanted to learn how to be missionaries where we're at, not just be missionaries going to other places. So while we were down there, the first thing that we did was we were put into teams of 4 or 5. These are the people that we lived with, and we would do Bible study with and go to church with, and pretty much did everything with. We had a team leader who had been to the program before, and they were just kind of our guide and there to lead Bible study and things like that. And so this group was really beneficial, because we got to invest in each other, and the leader got to invest in us, and we got to learn how to invest in other people through our leader. And it was really cool to getting to know those guys. And we went to Florida, but it wasn't just like a vacation. We worked full-time jobs there. I worked 7 to 4 every day. And then I just had enough time to take a shower before I had to go to dinner. And then we'd eat. And then right after dinner, we'd go to whatever the program had for us, whether it was like a church service or Bible study or things like that. So my schedule was packed. All the free time I had was spent napping, because my job was pretty hard. I did landscaping in Florida, which is not fun in that climate. It's not very fun. So we were doing that, and on Saturdays we would do beach evangelism. So we would go out in teams of 2, and we would just go and try to share the gospel with people, just have spiritual conversations with just people we met. We would walk up. We had a spiel that would say, we'd say, hey, my name is Noah. This is my friend. We're going around on the beach sharing a short illustration that sums up the main theme of the gospel. Would you like to hear it and tell us what you think about it? And then we would share the illustration and just try to have some conversations with the people there on the beach, just see where they're at. If they were Christians, then we would try to encourage them. And of course, the people who weren't Christians, we would try to lead them to Christ. One of the first things that one of our leaders told us, he's like, we are here to persuade people. A lot of people, they kind of don't want to be pushy with the gospel. But he wanted to be blatantly clear, yeah, we are trying to persuade people to come to Jesus. So that was a perspective I hadn't really seen before. That was really cool to hear. So that's kind of what we were doing, the structure. So I'm going to share with you guys what I learned. We were there for 2 months, and there was so much content packed into that 2 months that there's no way I'd be able to share even half of what I learned down there. They hardly could fit all the content into the 2 months I was there, so there's no way I'm going to be able to pack it into the time I have here. So I'm just going to share with you, I guess, the biggest thing that I wanted to bring home. My prayer going down there, the biggest thing I wanted to see is I was praying for a heart for the lost, because I didn't really feel like I cared all that much. I wanted to, I wanted to see people saved, but I didn't actually really care. And I think that's actually pretty big in a lot of people's lives. So I'm going to share with you a little bit how I saw God work through me this summer. So one of the weeks, each week had a theme that we would learn about. And one of the weeks was Relationships Week. And, everybody was thinking this is going to be about, dating relationships and marriage and what that's all about. But the speaker they brought in didn't talk about that at all. He's a pastor at a church there, but he also, on the side, he goes around and he speaks about racial division in the church. So that was not at all what we were expecting out of this week. And there was a lot he talked about that impacted me. And I kind of want to share some of what he talked about. He talked about cultural differences. So this doesn't just apply, he was African American, and this doesn't just apply to that. Someone who has never been to church before, do you think that they would feel comfortable coming in here and being in the service? And someone who had never been to church probably wouldn't feel all that comfortable here. And so his main point, the biggest thing he wanted to get across, was the most effective way to reach people, to go and talk to them, is to go and meet with them where they're at. A lot of through high school, my evangelism was, hey, come to church with me, or hey, come to a youth group with me, and which is good, I think, but it's so much more comfortable for them, and so much, I think it's more effective to go and meet them where they're at. And one of the reasons I think that's so important, because that's what Jesus does. He goes and meets people where they're at. And I think that's a great example of what we need to do. So we go and meet people to relate with the lost. I want to share with you guys Romans 12:15. It says, rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. And I kind of want to ask you guys, what does it take for you to cry? What causes you to weep or to cry? For some of you, I know you're sympathetic criers, it doesn't take much. And others of you, probably don't cry much. And so I just want to get the picture in your head. What would it take for you to weep with someone who is weeping? And I would come to the conclusion that you'd have to really care for this person. You'd have to relate to this person and know what they're going through in order to weep with them. And I personally believe that the Bible means what it says. So I do believe it wants you to weep and relate with these people, weep with them. So that's a big thing that kind of struck me. I need to go out into the world and meet people where they're at and relate with them and really get to know them. Because Harvey was talking about, me and Cooper would go hang out and we would stay out of trouble. And staying out of trouble was good. I'm happy we did it. But I almost did that too much. I would isolate myself from the non-believers. And by isolating myself, I couldn't really reach them. So it is important to stay out of trouble, but we have to go out and meet these people. And so I want to tell you a little bit about the job that I had while I was down there. It was a landscaping company in Florida. They were a rough group of guys. They would curse every sentence. They'd talk about stuff that I'd rather not talk about, and there was a crew there none of them were over 21. None of them were 21, except for one guy who had broken out of a Cuban jail. He didn't speak any English, and he came and fled to America and started working at that company. And he was the only one old enough to buy them alcohol, and they would ask him to buy them alcohol, and he'd go in, and they would drink between lawns, I guess. So that's just kind of to give you guys a picture of who I was working with. They were a rough group of guys, and so my job was hard. My coworkers, they were just not fun to work with. And so I was just, for the first couple of weeks of being there, I really hated it. I did not like being down there because my job was hard. I was so busy, I felt like I didn't really get time to invest in my relationship with God because I was so busy. So I really didn't like being down there at first. But as I guess I matured a lot through the summer, and as I matured, I realized, like, I don't know, I just realized some things, and I started talking to my coworkers and really getting to know them. I wasn't isolating myself from them because I didn't really like them. I started to actually get to know them, and as I started to get to know them, I started to really just relate with them. They were just broken people who needed help just like me, and while they had not shielded themselves and were in the world, they still needed Jesus just as much as I did. And so as I got to know them, I really grew to love them. And so one of the last days, I was working at that job. It was the second to last day. I had one more day left. I started to break down and cry because I had so many good conversations with them about the gospel, and I knew that some of them were so close to receiving the gospel. They were open to talking, and they needed Jesus, and I think they felt a thirst for something better. And they were so close, but I only had a day left, and that just broke my heart, and it made me weep. And as I was kind of sitting there weeping, I was like, oh, I got my heart for the lost. This is awesome. And so, but I also made the realization I didn't have a heart for the lost because I didn't know any lost. The semester before, we made a top 10 for heaven list. They said, all right, write down top 10 people that you're going to be praying for to go to heaven. And if you see any opportunities, go for it. Try to lead them to Christ. And I only had 3 names down on my top 10 for heaven list because I didn't know enough non-believers to even just pray for. So I had isolated myself from the world when the Great Commission says, go and make disciples. So it's important to go seek the lost. So this semester I've committed, normally I know last semester I would walk into class, I would do my work, and then I would leave right away, and I wouldn't talk to anyone there. So I've committed, I'm going to try to get to know the people around me where God has put me, and I'm going to try to seek them out, form relationships with them, and then through that show them who Christ really is. And so another verse I want to share with you guys is 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 3. I'm going to get that out real quick and read it to you guys. Okay. I'm sure some of you have heard this before. It says, if I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. So I'm sure some of you have heard that before, but the speaker, Jay Harris, he kind of used this, and he pointed out, I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. Love is a bigger deal to God than faith. And so I had so much faith in God. I believed in God, but I never loved anyone. So just to get to know the people where God had put me and to love them, that's a big deal to God. Now I'm sure you guys have heard when they asked God, what's the greatest commandment? And he said, first, it's to love God. And secondly, it's to love others. So the greatest commandment is to love people. And how do you love them if you're not there with them or if you can't relate with them? So it's important. What we're doing here in church, bringing us in, we're iron sharpening iron, and this is really good. But the real mission, the Great Commission, what we're called to do is out there. It's out the doors. It's going and making disciples of all nations, teaching and baptizing. So I kind of wanted to share that with you guys and encourage you guys to go out and share with these people and meet with the people where you're at. And just, enjoy the fruit of relationships with other people. So that's the biggest thing I learned down in Jacksonville, and I'm really glad I got to share with you guys. That's all I got, so I can welcome Cooper up, talk about what he's got. He's got a whole PowerPoint and everything, so buckle up.
Buckle up is right. Let's go. Can we get that PowerPoint up there, Easton? Appreciate it. All right, first off, just want to say thank you to all of you that supported me individually, whether that was financially or through prayer, and also to the church body as well, because Northwest Christian Church also funded my trip down there. And y'all made all of this possible for me. You guys were the ones that built me up, trained me to go down there, commissioned me to go down there, and they nicknamed this the summer of your life, and so far that's what it was, because this has been just so impactful and so inspiring for me. And I just really appreciate that y'all were a part of that with me. So Kaleo 2018, the summer of your life. Me and Dad, like you said, at the beginning of May, loaded up in the Ford Focus, drove down 1,100 miles to Panama City Beach, Florida, Party City, USA, and we did none of that. So we got down there, got introduced to my group. Kaleo means to be sent, so we are commissioned to go down there. We were commissioned by STUMO to become leaders on campus, and that's what they built us up and trained us to do. So we'll get rolling through here. So this was the entire Texas project. There are about 250 to 300 students down there from Texas alone. My TCU group had 78. The next slide there will be a picture of that. But there were two projects down there. One was the Texas project, and the other was Oklahoma. So in total, there are about 500 students that are all learning the same material and all being built up to go back to campus and be leaders. And so here's the TCU group. Like I said, there were 78 of us. A lot of betas, so a lot of the men in my fraternity, there were 8 of us down there, which is honestly an act of God. The year previous to the year I went down there, we had 2 betas, and they prayed that 8 betas would show up the next year. The next year, 8 betas show up. So Beta Theta Pi were put on a pedestal at TCU, and we plan to together use that pedestal to share the gospel, to make a difference on campus, to make a difference within our own fraternity, and try to bring back some light to TCU. Because it's one thing, college campuses are weird. They are definitely the front lines of the spiritual warfare battle. They are probably the darkest places in America, because you have so many college kids that come down and don't know what they're looking for. And they get caught up in the sex, they get caught up in the drugs, they get caught up in the drinking, they get caught up in this party culture, and this culture that everything the Bible says not to do is encouraged, and everything the Bible says to do is discouraged. So we're coming into this, we're hoping to kind of change that, and y'all are going to be a big part of that as my prayer warriors, as my support team. So you guys have been awesome in that, and I just want you to know that the fraternity life, sorority life, the college campus might be the front lines. Fraternity and sorority life is special forces behind enemy lines. The darkness is so much deeper there. So having 8 men go down there and learn how to be spiritual leaders and to reach people for Christ was absolutely huge. So those are some of my fraternity brothers there with me. And then on this next slide, here's my small group. There were 5 of us in it. Yeah, these guys are my rock. All of them are betas also. So yeah, we just grew throughout the summer together. It was awesome. And with that, in my D group, 2 of the guys got baptized and committed their lives to Christ down there. And as TCU, we had 36 baptisms and people that committed their life to Christ. So if you think about that, there were 78 of us down there. Half of 78 is 39. Nearly half of the people that went to this program weren't like me. Over nearly half of the people down there hadn't actually given their lives to Christ yet. And some of them were still struggling with that and hadn't. So I really got to see a whole spectrum of people that I thought were going to be like me and Noah. You know, like we've grown up in the church together. We've grown up serving in the church. We've grown up spiritually invested by our friends, our families, everyone around us just pouring into us and loving us. Not everyone else had that. And that was so eye-opening to me to see that other kids devoted their entire summer to go learn about Jesus, to go learn about how to share the gospel, to go learn how to be a light in the darkness when they themselves hadn't even made that commitment yet. So that was just huge for me to see, and eye-opening to see that not all of us come from the same background. Not all of us, we're so similar in so many ways at TCU, but we're also so different. And like I said, that was just huge for me to see. And like Noah said, we worked 40 hours a week. I got stuck at McDonald's. I'm going to just leave it with, if you all are thinking about eating at McDonald's, don't. There's not too many good, happy stories from McDonald's, but God is faithful, absolutely. The group of Oklahoma students that he blessed me with and gave me as new friends there were amazing and made that job totally worth it. But other than that, let's get off this slide. Purpose of Kaleo, train us to be spiritual leaders, build us up, to go back to campus, to be leaders within STUMO, within our fraternities. And a big part of that, like Jesus was a servant leader. So they wanted us to get involved in a church. So they commissioned us out to go to different churches, and then those churches could decide how we would serve from there. My program, there's a little bit of a mix-up, and we ended up having about 80 students get sent to this one church. And that one church didn't have the need for that many students. So we got assigned to a parking lot crew that had just been created once all these new students showed up. And most of our service included sitting outside with our yellow jackets on, just eating cinnamon rolls. So for some of the guys, they're like, oh, I love serving at church. For me, who's served at church, I'm like, it's usually not this easy. But yeah, so we got set up with City Church. The pastor there was awesome. It's a Baptist church that's trying to kind of revamp its, stereotype, I guess. Like Noah said, it's trying to be a church that non-believers would love to attend, where they would feel welcomed, where they wouldn't feel out of place. And the pastor there was doing a phenomenal job at doing that. He got up every day. He never watered the gospel down. He spit fire, but it was so welcoming, so inviting, and just a great environment to be in and grow in. So the actual training part, every night we'd have a different topic or a different theme for the week. And so to begin, we had our devotions. Kaleo, the program, had for the first couple weeks their own devotions that they wanted us to follow, but then after that, they're just you're going to take the book, or one book of the Bible, do a chapter a day, kind of like Philip's plan. And the TCU campus director was the one in charge of developing this devotion quiet time schedule. And I had shared this quote with him at the beginning of my freshman year that my pastor says that the plan that I have is better than the plan that you don't have. He got up in front of all 300 of us and dropped that on us. So Northwest Christian Church was really being represented down there. So yeah, we hit 2 Timothy, we hit James, we hit 1 Thessalonians, Ephesians, John, and Luke, all in this 2-month period while we were down there. And then we also got trained on how to prepare and lead Bible studies. So you can see the topics on the right side there. I got stuck with victory over sin, which was an awesome thing to lead a Bible study on until I realized how much I was struggling with victory over sin in certain areas. So it was really convicting for me to lead that Bible study and realize, wow, I don't have this all together. So that was kind of, conviction's awesome when it changes your heart, but conviction really sucks when you're going through it. So that was that week, and I was just getting beat up by this Bible study and preparing it and just praying that God, change my heart. All these things that I want to do that I know are wrong, rid my desire of me to do that. And that's still been an ongoing battle, but I know I have victory over sin. I've known that from the beginning. We are more than conquerors. So through Christ, we have that power to do that. And on top of that, we also had this book, Not a Fan by Kyle Idleman. If none of y'all have read it, I would highly suggest you read it. It's all about becoming a follower from a fan of Jesus. And at the very beginning, probably the first 3 chapters in, I was not a fan of this book. again, conviction is awesome when it changes you and you can look back and see that. But when you're going through it, conviction is terrible. So yeah, first 3 chapters in, I was like, I don't want to read this book. I'm sick of it. But again, just prayed about it. I was like, Lord, just like, help me finish this. I'm not going to be the guy that quits out on it. So started diving in even deeper to my quiet time, started diving in deeper to this book, started diving in deeper to my Bible studies. And the change that I could see in my heart and how I viewed different things absolutely began to change. And so some of the biggest takeaways I had from this book is that I was mistaking a lot of my knowledge of God for intimacy with God. Because I'd grown up in the church, because I'd done Awanas, because I'd done this, that, and everything else, I knew a lot about God. I knew a lot about Jesus. I know a lot about the Holy Spirit. And I was mistaking that knowledge and knowing about Him for knowing Him. And so I kind of got to see myself like kind of work through that and figure out like, how can I get to know God rather than just know about God? So that was pretty big for me. And with that, like, Jesus doesn't expect us to be perfect. Like, none of His followers are going to be perfect, but He wants us to be authentic. Because He knows my heart. He knows what I'm thinking. Like I said, I've been in church. I know what to say. I know what to pray. I know how to look. But Jesus sees my heart, which no one else will. And so getting that transition from just knowledge to intimacy and being completely open with Jesus and surrendering everything was a big deal for me. And with that, following Jesus requires movement. Like, we can't just sit by idly. Faith without works is dead. So we have to be doing something with it. And I think I've done a pretty good job of this so far, not to toot my own horn or anything. But moving it from I'm obligated to do this to I want to do this for Christ was a big step for me. And then a big thing that I learned probably like halfway down there, I'll expand on it a little bit, is that fans have the fear of missing out. Fans will be on the fence for Jesus saying, I know what's best for me, but I don't want to miss out on what the world has to offer. I don't want to miss out on the parties. I don't want to miss out on all these other things. But the followers of Christ know that where their joy is found and where their fulfillment's found. And so that's something that I'm currently still working through. And I think a lot of my fraternity brothers are doing the same thing because this hit us so hard. At the end of the week, we'd come together and just talk about the book, like, what's God opened our eyes to? What do we think we need to work on? Everybody had this on their list. And then finally, I die daily. I pick up my cross. I sacrifice myself. I say, your kingdom first, your will be done. Do with me what you want. So my biggest takeaways, throw some scripture up there and read it. Luke 12:48. But the one who does not know and does things deserving punishment will be beaten with few blows. From everyone who has been given much, much will be required. And the one who has been entrusted with much, much more is asked. So this goes back to like all those testimonies of my friends that I heard and seeing that we're not all from the same place. Like, my best friend is Noah Berning. We have almost identical spiritual walks because we've been like raised in the church. Our parents, our friends, our families, all strong believers just pouring into us. And I didn't realize how special that was. I didn't realize how rare that was. So then looking back, I felt a lot of conviction in that and seeing like, I have been given so much. What am I doing with it? I have been prepared. I've been trained. I've been sent down to TCU. I have basically everything that I've ever wanted, everything that I've ever needed. What do I have to show for it? Where's my fruit? Like, what am I giving back to the kingdom? And I could sit there and be like, I played bass on Sunday. But at the end of the day, was that for Christ or was that for me? Like, I wanted to learn how to play guitar. Was that for Christ or was that for me? I wanted to go down to TCU. Was that for Christ or was that for me? So I was able to look through and see that, like, man, I have really been taking things for granted. I have really been not living for Christ, knowing Him, knowing about Him, but not actually living that out. And with that came Luke 16:15. He said to them, you are the ones who justifies yourselves in the eyes of others, but God knows your hearts. What people value highly is detestable in God's sight. See, what I've been doing a lot with my sin, especially in the party life, being in a fraternity, was looking at the other guys in my pledge class and being, I don't party as hard as they do. I don't drink as much as they do. I don't do this, that, or the other thing, so I'm good. And that's not the standard Jesus calls us to be. I'm called to be at his standard. I'm not called to be at so-and-so from Beta Theta Pi or Sigma Kappa or any other fraternity out there. I'm called to be set apart, and I haven't been living like that. And I've been putting on this facade of, oh, he's this great Christian guy. He's this, if you want to know anything about the Bible, he's the guy you go to. But then at the same time, doing that for all the wrong reasons, doing that to bolster my own image, to just engage in everything that I want to engage in the world, but then compare it back to other people and say that, hey, I'm good, look what I didn't do, or look what I did do, rather than just trying to strive for Christ's standard. And finally, Romans 1:16, I claimed that this was one of my favorite verses until God kind of hit me with it. It says, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God and salvation to everyone who believes, first to the Jew and then to the Gentile." And that first part, for I am not ashamed of the gospel, hit me because if you look back at my freshman year, you would see me going to church, you would see me going to all the STUMO events, you would see me actively going out of my way to do all the things that I've been raised to do. But you wouldn't see me in my fraternity house sharing the gospel. You wouldn't see me in my fraternity house trying to bring others to Christ. You wouldn't see me doing anything for the sake of Christ. So I was acting like I was ashamed of the gospel. Like, there's no other way to put that. Like, I wasn't proud. Like, I'm proud to be an American. I will let people know that left and right. When was the last time that I let someone know that I'm proud to be a Christian? And that I have something that I know will make their lives better. So I was living as if I was ashamed for the gospel without even realizing it, just in my inaction. And so for the future, the verses that have hit me the hardest, Matthew 6:33, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you." So making Christ my first priority, making Christ my end to everything, seeking first his kingdom. My life isn't my life. Like, I am dead. My life is his life now. What he says goes. So I'm trying to, out of this me mentality to Christ and his kingdom mentality, so that I can push through, so that those grades that I want, that car that I want to drive, that all these needs or wants that I have, when I seek his kingdom first, he will provide for me. Like, I don't know what I want to do yet. I'm struggling with deciding between pre-med, pre-law, and that's really stressing me out. But I've learned that, like, hey, that stress goes away when I start seeking him first. That path starts to become more clear when I start seeking him first. And so I want to utilize that in my own life and seek Christ first, but then also take that to other people and be like, hey, there is a better way to do this. There is a way to gain peace and understanding. There's a way that you don't have to live in the darkness, as so many of my friends, so many of my fraternity brothers, so many people at TCU are doing. And with that, Galatians 2:20, "I've been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And this life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave his life for me." Like, my life is not my life. Like, period. Like, I don't have a say in anything I do. It should all be Christ. I claim to make him Lord. It's time to make him Lord. It's time to make what he says goes. It's time in my life to actually not be ashamed of the gospel and actually go out and take it to other people, because I think the gospel is the key to life. The gospel is salvation. The gospel is the good news. So why wouldn't I want to take that to other people? Why wouldn't my main mission be salvation for others? Why wouldn't my main mission be to show Jesus' love to others? So I need to die daily to that and allow that to happen. So that's my plan going into this next school year, is to plan on dying daily, to pick up my cross every day and follow Christ. And finally, 1 Corinthians 15:58, the verse that I will be getting tattooed on my side once I convince my mom that tattoos are cool. Says, "Stand firm, let nothing move you. Commit yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, and know that when you labor for the Lord, it will not be in vain." Stand firm. Stand in my roots. Stay in my roots. I've been rooted in Christ. I've been rooted in the Bible. I have a firm foundation. Stay on that. Let nothing move me. Don't compromise that. There's so many other things I'm unwilling to compromise on. The Bible should be the top priority in that. I should never compromise the Bible. And then commit myself fully to the work of the Lord. Whether I go pre-med, pre-law, whatever I do, my goal should be salvation. My goal should be His kingdom. I should be seeking His direction for my life. I should be seeking His plan. I should be asking, Lord, how do I die today to serve you? And that's what I want to do, and that's the mentality I want to get into, and I'm still praying about that because that is so crucial for reaching others, is that we die to ourselves. We don't serve them to serve ourselves. We don't serve them to get anything back. We serve them, like Noah said, to love them. We serve them because Christ loved us, because Christ loved us enough to come and get beat to death for us. So my game plan for this semester is live the life of a new creation. Don't live ashamed of the gospel. Don't live in sin. Don't justify my sin. Live according to the Bible. Like, if I mess up, and I will mess up, be accountable for it. Like, I plan on having accountability partners with my fraternity brothers that were at Kaleo, with some of my other student friends, with staff, to help keep me on that right track to where I can actually live the life of a new creation. I can be transformed by the renewing of my mind, and that my actions would show what I believe. And then insert myself into other people's lives, be able to serve others, be able to meet them where they're at, go to the parties, go have fun, go do all that stuff, but do it in a God-honoring way. Do it in a way that brings glory to God. Do it in a way that I can be there for other people, that I can serve them. I can actively insert my life into their lives, that I can be a rock for them and show them that this love that I have for you isn't mine. This love that I have for you is only found in Christ. And then meet individually with all the brothers in my pledge class and then the incoming pledge class. This will be super easy for me because the incoming pledge class is required to meet with me one-on-one and interview me. So why would I not use that opportunity instead of talking about what I like to do, talk about guns, hunting, whatever, when I could shift that to Christ, figure out where they're at, start investing in their lives, and share the gospel with them. We can talk about all that stuff and have fun with all that stuff later, but my main priority should be salvation for each and every one of these dudes. And then with my pledge class, I've messed up big time in hurting my witness last year. I plan on coming in. I don't think I can correct that, but I can make strides to alter their opinion of that to where they can see a change in me. And then go out of my way to meet the foreign exchange students. We had a missions conference down there. It was all about foreign missions. My heart isn't really set on foreign missions. I'm more of an America guy. If y'all didn't know that. Greatest country ever? Yeah. So my heart isn't set on going to different countries. But I have people from other countries coming to my country to study. And the speaker at our missions conference, his name was Todd Aaron, he said, how many of you, stand up, if any of you can pull out your phone right now and give me one number from a foreign exchange student, one name and number in your phone, and no one could stand up and do it. And that really hit home with me because there were times where I would go to our union to go get lunch after class, and instead of sitting with a group of foreign exchange kids, I just go, open a chemistry textbook, and sit down by myself and look like I was doing something. They lived in the hall right next to me. I never once said anything to them. I actually remember telling my mom, I can't stand the foreign exchange kids. All they want to do is hate on America. And honestly, why wouldn't they? If they come to this country and no one befriends them, if no one comes over and is hospitable to them, I would hate that. If I go over to Spain, don't get to know any Spaniards, don't get to experience their culture, no one opens themselves up to me, I would probably hate it also. So my goal is to get to know these people, befriend them, be hospitable to them, share the love of Christ with them, share the gospel with them if I have the opportunity, but just to share that love that Christ had for me with them and make them feel welcomed both here and at TCU. And finally, get into the routine of making Christ my number one priority. That should be far and above all else, and that's what I need to work on the most, is making time to have my quiet times, making time to go out of my way to minister to others, putting the rest of my life on hold if I need to seek the kingdom first. And so, like I said, y'all have been very helpful in like setting this up for me. You guys have funded me. You guys have prayed for me. You guys have funded Noah. You guys have prayed for Noah. And so please keep praying for us. Like, y'all aren't on the college campuses with us, but you guys can be warriors for us. Like, the spiritual battle going on college campuses is so dark and so dangerous. So please pray for our campuses. Pray for TCU. Pray for Wichita State. Pray for our students there. Pray that we would be a light to them. Pray for our professors that we could be a light to them also. Pray for our administrators. Pray that we would be able to change the culture on TCU's campus, on Wichita State's campus, on campuses all across America, because we're not the only ones. Me and Noah are not the only students that went to programs like this over the summer. So pray that God uses us to change that campus. Pray that the darkness is chased away through us and that we can be instrumental roles in doing that. Pray for Noah and I's boldness in sharing the gospel and loving others. Like he said, like he wouldn't get to know anybody else. I would just stick with my fraternity brothers because I'm really good friends with them. Pray that we're able to be bold and go out of our way to share the gospel with others, to love others. Pray that we can insert ourselves to other people's lives and that we wouldn't be fearful or shameful in doing that, that we would live unashamed of the gospel, that we would take that to other people. And pray that our convictions would transform our actions and our thoughts, that what we learned at Kaleo and at Jax, we would transfer back to TCU, we'd transfer back to Wichita State, and we would actually live transformed lives. We're called to be a new creation. Pray that we actually live that out and become a new creation. Pray that those sin struggles that we both have, we'd be victorious in that. Pray that we would be able to overcome that and that others could see that. We could use that as our testimony to reach others to Christ. And pray for disciples. Like, I'm personally praying for 3 disciples from this incoming pledge class that I can disciple and lead towards Christ. Pray for Noah to do the same. Pray for Nolan to do the same. Like, he's going to Wichita State also as a Navigator staff, right? Yeah, so pray for us. Pray for us to make disciples who are then willing and motivated to go make disciples. Spiritual multiplication works. Pray that we make disciples. And then for me personally, pray for my fraternity. We are seen as the Christian guys on campus. Like, that is our, stereotype, even though it's not true at all. So pray that there would be a revival within Beta, that the 8 guys that went down there would be able to go back into the house and actually make a cultural change in Beta. Pray that we then use that pedestal that TCU sets us on, that the Fort Worth community sets us on, to actually influence the entire TCU campus. Because if there's one fraternity or even sorority on TCU that's going to be able to do that, it is Beta Theta Pi. So pray that we'd be bold in doing that. Pray that we would actually be able to see the darkness fleeting, and that through our efforts and through the Holy Spirit that we could see that revival come on TCU's campus. There's a Beta chapter at Wichita State. Pray that there'd be a revival there and that the same would happen in your backyard. And then pray for visible fruit. For me, it's going to be a little different because y'all don't go. Y'all aren't in Fort Worth, so you're not going to actually be able to see that fruit. But I can bring back stories of it. So pray for visible fruit from our labors. Pray for Nolan to have his group of disciples. Pray for Noah to have his group of disciples. And there to actually be a revival on Wichita State's campus, because they are in your backyard. You can drive to Wichita State's campus 30 minutes away from here and see a difference being made. So pray for those guys that they have visible fruit. Pray for me down at TCU that I have visible fruit, because it's so much more encouraging to us when we can see lives actually being changed. It's one thing to know that when you labor for the Lord, nothing's in vain. It's a completely different thing to actually be able to see your labor come to fruition, that you can see these disciples come up and make other disciples. So pray for the 3 of us, like me, Noah, Nolan included, that we would be able to go impact lives, that we'd be able to go make disciples, and that we could see that impact. So that was Kaleo for me. It was about 2.5 months of just pure content and material. I was living 200 yards away from a beach, and I probably only went there 7 times because they kept us so busy with work, with scripture, with studying, with training. So I ask that you would just just close in prayer with me. Nathan, guys, come up, and we'll close. And yeah, just keep me, Noah, and Nolan in your prayers. Like, we need it. Spiritual warfare is very dark. It's very heavy on college campuses. But through these programs, we've been equipped to go battle it. So just strengthen us in that. I'll pray us out real quick, and then Nathan, you guys will close. We'll get on out of here.